Imagine Tokyo in 1944. The city trembles under the relentless roar of bombers. Air raid sirens are the soundtrack of daily life, and the smell of smoke and fear permeates the air. In the midst of this apocalyptic chaos, in a discreet corner of the metropolis, a man is teaching the future intelligence officers of the Empire of Japan how to become ghosts. He shows them how to vanish into the darkness using tools as rudimentary as a rice cape and scraps of metal. That man is Fujita Seiko, known as the last true ninja. But is this a romanticized label, a legend-fueled exaggeration, or the pure truth? Today, we'll uncover the life of the only human trained from the time he could barely crawl to become a shadow. A man who, when he closed his eyes for the last time, extinguished a 500-year lineage of secrets and silence. Martial might, where warriors live forever. Isamu Fujita, the man who would later be known as Seiko, was born in Tokyo's vibrant Asakusa district in 1899, just as the 19th century was taking its final breaths. His family was not ordinary. For 3 centuries, the Fujitas had faithfully served the Tokugawa shogunate as onmitsu, covert intelligence agents, who were the eyes and ears of the regime. When the Meiji Restoration toppled the shogunate, many samurai families fell into irrelevance. But the Fujitas did not abandon their traditions. They simply withdrew, veiling their scrolls and deadly knowledge under a shroud of silence. Warrior blood ran strong in young Isamu. At 6 years old, in a furious act of loyalty, he defended his brother from a gang of 11 older boys, not with fists, but with his father's wooden sword. The punishment for such violence was severe. He was banished to a Buddhist temple to calm his spirit. There, fate struck him nearly dead. He contracted diphtheria. The doctors, powerless against the disease, gave him up for lost. But his mother, refusing to accept the verdict, nursed him with unwavering faith and an ancestral remedy made from persimmon bark. Against all odds, Isamu survived. This brush with death forged in him an iron conviction. The gods had spared him for a purpose, to resurrect the art of ninjutsu in the new age of steam trains and telegraphs. The true training began at the age of 3. His grandfather, Fujita Shintazaemon, the 13th Soke, or Grand Master of the Kogaryu Wadaha school, took the boy under his wing. Every dawn, before the sun brushed the rooftops of Tokyo, the old man would drag little Isamu down into the house's basement. The setting was always the same, a damp tatami mat that smelled of earth and time, the flickering light of a single candle, and a bamboo ruler in the old man's hand. The first lesson was a whisper that cut the air. If you breathe, they hear you. The second was a sentence. If they hear you, you die. Isamu learned the art of absolute breath control, reducing his cycles to barely 4 per minute, a feat of physiological mastery bordering on the superhuman. Meanwhile, his grandfather would hurl shuriken through the air, their blades whistling past inches from his face, to test his concentration. At 7, he had to remain motionless for 10 minutes inside a barrel of water without releasing a single bubble. At 12, he perfected the technique of walking on snow without leaving tracks, using wicker baskets on his feet to distribute weight and rice ash to erase any trace. Pain was a constant companion, but each ordeal overcome was another step toward becoming a specter. As adolescence arrived, Isamu felt the pull of modernity sweeping through Japan. He wanted to be a young man of his time. He enrolled at the prestigious Waseda University, where he immersed himself in Western philosophy and donned gloves to practice English boxing. To his classmates, he was just another student, debating Kant and perfecting his right hook. But But every night, he lived a double life. He would sneak into the attic of his house, a forbidden sanctuary where his grandfather kept the clan's treasures. There, by the light of an oil lamp, he unrolled scrolls so ancient and secret that even Kyoto's most erudite scholars had never seen them. Detailed maps of the Tokugawa clan's secret tunnels, gunpowder recipes dating back to the 16th century, and a leather-bound book, the Torinawa Jutsu. This manual contained 1,000 ways to tie up and subdue an opponent using nothing but a simple hemp cord. Isamu not only devoured the texts, he updated them, scribbling notes in the margins with a practical and lethal mind, usable with packing tape. He was building a bridge between the feudal past and the industrial present. When the shadow of World War II loomed over the Pacific, Japan found itself in desperate need of elite spies, not just soldiers, but men able to survive, operate, and teach behind enemy lines. To forge this new generation of covert warriors, the army founded the Nakano Academy, the West Point of Japanese espionage. And to lead the training in unconventional tactics, they sought the best. The star instructor was a man who adopted the artistic name he would use forever, Fujita Seiko. In Nakano's secret classrooms, he taught cadets to make homemade explosives from flour and sugar, to camouflage themselves with mud and moss until they blended with the landscape, and, most terrifying of all, to kill without weapons by applying pressure to the exact point where the collarbone meets the carotid artery. His students remembered him as an almost mythical figure. He would enter class, dressed in a black kimono, with no insignia or rank, moving in absolute silence. Even in the dead of winter, his breath produced no vapor, a chilling testament to his breath control. It is said he spoke to generals and lieutenants as if they were equals, because his authority came not from rank, but from ancestral and deadly knowledge. The war ended, leaving Tokyo and much of Japan in ashes. With the country occupied and martial arts banned as militaristic, Fujita had to turn the page once again. He moved to Osaka, opened a dojo, and defying the discretion of his ancestors, published Zukai Torinawa Jutsu, a 1,000-page manual on the art of restraining an enemy, which is still studied today in police academies. He became an unexpected media curiosity. He appeared on black and white television, patiently explaining that ninjas neither flew nor turned invisible. They were simply masters at calculating shadow angles and moving in ways the eye did not expect. In 1958, a young and ambitious actor named Tomisaburo Wakayama, who would later achieve worldwide fame as the star of Lone Wolf and Cub, became his disciple. As a gift, Fujita gave him a set of iron shuriken forged in a temple. "These have taken lives," he told him. "Now they will only kill movie scenes." Even in his 70s, Fujita continued teaching in a modest basement lit by a bare bulb. His students, a mix of martial artists, historians, and police officers, often asked who would become the 15th Soki, who would carry on the Kogaryu Wadaha lineage. The master always replied with a tired smile, tinged with melancholy, "Ninjutsu is not a sport. It is a scar, and scars are not inherited. They are born for him." The art had been born out of a specific need in a time of war and constant conflict. In modern Japan, he believed preserving it would turn it into mere spectacle, stripping it of its essence. Fujita Seiko died of liver cirrhosis in January 1966, never naming a successor. With him, the direct line of his school officially ended. His widow, honoring his will, donated the precious scrolls and documents to the Igaweno Museum and the Odawara Library, where they remain under lock and key, a silent treasure of a vanished world. Do you ever wonder if there's a bit of ninja within you? The ability to observe, to move silently, to adapt. Subscribe, because every week we unearth legends like this, stories timed time and modernity have tried to erase. Above all, Fujita Seiko was a bridge between the feudal Japan of the samurai and the cybernetic Japan of skyscrapers and bullet trains. He connected the clandestine tunnels of Koga province with the classrooms of Tokyo's metropolitan police. Though he left no heir for his ninjutsu school, his legacy is undeniable. His direct disciples like Manzo Iwata and Motokatsu Inoue became great masters in their own right, founding schools of jujutsu, kobudo, and even stage combat for cinema. His influence reached other great martial arts masters, such as Kenwa Mabuni, founder of Shito-ryu karate, who sent his own students to train under Fujita. At Nakano Academy, far from tourists' eyes, it is said there is a plaque no one photographs, a silent tribute that reads, "To the master who taught us to disappear without leaving a trace or resentment." One last story blurs the line between reality and myth. Shortly before his death, Fujita returned alone to the Buddhist temple, where he had been exiled as a child. He entered the main hall and placed a shuriken, carefully folded into the shape of a paper crane, on the altar. Then he removed his shoes, stepped into the courtyard, covered by a fine layer of untouched snow, and walked, without leaving a single footprint. Reality or legend, in the end, it doesn't matter. It is the perfect symbol of his life. Every time someone in Japan utters the words, "The Last Ninja," if you listen closely, you can almost hear the faint echo of a breath that barely exists. The ghost of Fujita Seiko still wandering in the shadows of memory. Do you know someone in your community who preserves forgotten techniques or knowledge? Tell me in the comments which legend or lost story you'd like us to explore next week. And if you're craving more tales that time tried to hide, don't forget to like and share. Even the algorithm needs a little more shadow.